This is going to be a pretty rough and relatively uncut video, and I'm doing this just as a request because, as it turns out, I'm not the only knucklehead who decided that it'd be a good idea to go out and buy some of these DC solar trailers. And what I've seen on Facebook and what I've seen on YouTube so far is a bevy of people who have these things and have no idea how to use them, because though they come with manuals, they don't come with instructions on how to operate the trailer as it sits, as a fixture itself. So that's what this video is going to be all about. Here's one of those damn Asian stink bugs. Oh, I hate you guys. So I'm going to show you how to use it. So what we have, solar power comes in from your panels, obviously. It goes into this photovoltaic combiner box, and I may not even be pronouncing that right, but who cares? It's not what's important. What this does is this takes in your relatively high voltage, low amperage, but all of the juice from the solar panels and sets you up with some breakers. One bank is here, one bank is here. This circuit feeds your controller. And this circuit, I don't know what exactly this circuit is feeding yet. If any of you do, throw it down in the comment section. We'll use this as a little forum, basically, so that we can all learn about it. So the first thing you're going to want to do is fire all that up. Once you fire all that up, you will see your Midnight Classic Solar controller fan kick on. And this controls and processes that incoming voltage into something that can charge the battery packs that are on board here. Input voltage from the panels and the wattage that they are producing. So you can see this one just kicked on and it's pulling 63, 57, 26 watts. You also have a kilowatt hours below that. If you hit the status button, you can change that arrangement around. There's some pretty funny stuff in this controller. If you go into the main menu, and then you can just scroll through. Like if you go into miscellaneous, there's a pretty funny mode in here. LED mode, we'll hit enter on, and then we can change it to blinky, and it does blinky blinks. So the guys who wrote the code for this thing were pretty funny. But for the most part, let me get it out of blinky mode because blinky drives me nuts. Blinky, and we put in LED 1. I find sends the most common information that you'd want to see. So for the most part, you aren't going to need to do anything with this. It manages your charging for you automatically, and you really don't need to touch anything in here to utilize the trailer itself. Let's see, where do we go from here? Let's go right into your inverters. So there are two SMA inverters. These are very nice pieces of equipment. These are about top of the line. They're German, extremely well designed. I've already opened one up on a trailer I started disassembling already. I can see why everybody rates these things so highly. They are extremely well built and well laid out. You have two of them. The one on the right, always the one on the right, is the master. The one on the left is the slave to the master. And what that means is whatever this one is doing, this one is going to mimic it. So you don't have to play or touch or do anything short of turning this main DC breaker on and off. On this unit, that's the only thing you'll ever need to touch. To fire these up, the correct order is to first turn on the slave, wait for the slave to power up, and then you will turn on the master. This is a DC breaker for the main DC power that's feeding into these inverters. I found on 3 out of my 4 trailers, it doesn't matter which one I turn on in order, it doesn't make a difference, but on one of them, it does require you to turn this one on, the slave first, or the master will not control it. So, go figure, I don't know. And there you see, ready, waiting for master. So we'll come over to the master and we'll turn this on, and this will go through its boot sequence. God, the reflections are terrible. I hope this comes across better for you guys than it does for me on my little screen right now. But So we are ready to go. They're both gone through their startup sequences. So to power it up, we're going to just tap enter, and then we're going to press and hold it. You'll see that change. That beep means that they are fired up. So it will then begin to scroll through external power, how many kilowatts. Battery SOC is battery state of charge, so we're at 92%. At the current rate, it would take 5 hours to top it off based on the fact that we're not getting any sun. Battery voltage, you'll see 52.2, which will match what you see on the charge controller, generally speaking. We're at 52.3. And I forget, we missed a couple of them going through here. But at any rate, this gets you up and running. This gets you power to your controllers, and you can change these, although these are famous for being shitty. And in this particular trailer's case, both of these are not functioning, but that's pretty normal for these. They're crappy timers. It's the only cheap thing on the trailer. They should have put a decent, you know, a rotary timer or something like that in there. Everything else on this thing is so robust. That's the only thing that sucks. Alright, so now we've got basically 120 volts coming out of each one of these, so they come together and give you that 240 volts. This panel is post inverter, so the voltage coming out of there, this is your, just like a normal sub panel at your home. We've got two 50 amp circuits which power the two 50 amp twist lock outlets that are over here. So that's what those two are for, and then this 110 is the one that runs power to your outlets here, which are GFI protected. GFI, good fucking idea. And it also provides 110 volts down to these guys, which then provide a relay connection to send 50 volts up to your light towers, because these light towers are not regular household current, so keep that in mind. Though this is taking 110 to power these switches are just controlling a relay on the inside that feeds battery straight from the battery pack up to these lights. It's the most efficient way of doing it, so that's why they did it that way, and that makes sense. Ugh, that's a mouthful. Okay, now, generator. Let's talk about that. If your model has the generator. So it's a pretty interesting system. They use a vacuum system to get fuel from the big 113 gallon tank up to here. You can cap this off and convert it back to the tank that is built into this if you want. There is a 35 gallon fuel tank in here, and you can just use that if you want, but you do have to remove this panel and cap it off. You can fire the generator up just with the key if you wish. You should have your breaker off to start it. You'll then switch to this position, and then right here we're going to switch it to that position, which preheats the coils. It's a diesel engine. When that light turns off, it's ready to fire. So if I turn it one more time, it starts just like any car or anything like that. Once it's up and running, after about a minute or so, let it warm up, you would then flip this switch and it will begin charging the batteries. That's the backwards way of doing it. The way it's supposed to happen is you could leave the key in the off position, mind you, for this. And we're going to go back to our master inverter, and I'm going to show you how to work the menu on this. So we're going to hit down, down. You've got meters, settings, diagnostics, failure events, operation. You can go to operation. You have operational control over the inverter, operational control over the batteries, operation control over the generator. I can hit enter there. I can then go down to, where am I? General master. I think it's, no, it's not that. Oh, it is that. So gen man stir. I don't remember what that stands for, but you have auto, stop, and start. If I hit start on this, it's going to fire the generator up right from the panel here using that automatic function. That again, even this you shouldn't ever need, because what's going to happen is we are at 92% state of charge on our batteries. Once that state of charge gets down to 50%, this inverter is going to tell the generator to start up and start charging the batteries up to 95%. You can change any of those parameters. So this one I had trouble figuring out, but I finally got the information somewhere on the interweb. What you're going to find is when you want to change some of this stuff, like we'll go into settings. If I want to change some of those generator settings, I would go into external settings, generator control, and say I wanted to change, let's see, the generator cooldown time. I would hit enter, and I'll get this no permission to change the value. So you're going to see that in a whole bunch of different options that you try to change, and that's because you have to log into this thing as an installer and get the installer password. The installer password is found under something. Where is it? Generator. It's under settings. So we're going to go to settings number 200. We're going to go down till we see password setting and hit enter. And what you see here is the number of on-time hours your inverter has. But that number of on-time hours is also a code. We're going to take the 2, add it plus 0, plus 6, plus 6. So what are we at? 14, plus 1 is 15. The password, PW, is 15. So I'm going to hit enter and then scroll through until I get 15 here. And hit enter. We are now in as a installer. So your number is going to be different, but it's just like an anagram or for a number. You just add up all those digits. Whatever those digits total, you enter as the password number. So now we'll hit escape and we'll go right back to where we were with the generator settings. So we were going to do that. We're going to do external settings. That's what it's under. External settings. External generator control. So let's say I want to change the cool down mode, which I already did. They had it set at 5 minutes. I think 5 minutes is longer than it needs to be, so I changed it to 3. But let's say I want to change it back to 5. I just hit enter, and now I can control it and change it back to whatever minutes for cool down time I want to leave it at. But that password, and okay to confirm, yes. So that password allows you to go in to change any of these things, any of the auto start on and off for that generator. So here's the generator. 50% is when it kicks on. When it kicks off, it stops at 95%. You can adjust any of these numbers that you want and get this to control both the battery pack the same way with all those different options under that installer code by utilizing the hours that the system has been running. When you're done with this and you want to shut it down, it's very simple. You can either hit the enter button again and hold it, or you can also do that with escape and hold the escape button. It will go through that sequence of powering down and we're back off. When you see that, you're free to kill the DC power supply on both of these. And if you're leaving it for a long term like this, I suggest leaving your controller on. This is going to ensure that your battery packs are topped up. And that is, especially as we head into the winter with colder weather, you want to leave your battery packs completely charged and full. That will help them to last the longest. Okay, next thing I want to do is go through some of the ancillary systems here and then just describe some of the components you may see but don't understand. Over on the right hand side here, if we get in there, this is your current measuring device for the DC bus. So the power cables coming in off the battery, we need to measure the current, how much current is both flowing into and coming out of the battery pack. That is done with this little device over here. Not something you're ever going to need to access. Just know that yes, you do have a current measuring device. That's how this gets its readings, and it's located in the corner there. Above that, you will see a little fan. That is a cooling fan. It's controlled by its own little rheostat, and that is over on the far side, where you have a matching cooling fan there. And right here, you can adjust the temperature at which these fans kick on. For the factory, it's seen anywhere between 80 and 90 degrees. You can adjust that if you want to. I don't know. It's up to you, but that's what it's controlled by. That is also on 120 volts, and that is also run off this 20 amp breaker on the end there. Okay. Twist lock power outlet. So these are 50 amp, very common in industry. You can see what I did for mine to hook the house up just temporarily. I just wired in my own cable to that 50 amp connector, and again, not the right way to do things, but it's the way I do things, just for a temporary solution. Okay, solar panels themselves, these are all wired in series. So you have two lines coming in, a negative, and then the positive is looped from panel to panel to panel to panel to panel. And at the last one, it loops all the way back and ties in with the negative there. Same thing on the opposing side. What else we got? This guy, you can adjust the angle at which this thing is aimed down here at the bottom by lifting up on this, spring loaded, and it locks into place when you have it at the right, you know, spinny angle that you want it at. Fuel tank is here. There is a fuel gauge in that center cutout. You might get lucky like me and have a completely full fuel tank in one of them. That's pretty cool. Batteries. Okay. Let me crawl in here. Good thing about these batteries, these are stupid batteries, but they're AGM, absorbed glass matte, so they'll take some abuse, but they're not any of these new fancy lithium batteries with 1,000 different sensors that will constantly be tripping things and causing alarms and all of that stuff. These are the ones, in my opinion, that you want. These are great backup batteries, and they're incredibly expensive. So the only sensors that they have two different sensors. One of which is a voltage sensor, one for each pack. And then also you can see it right there. That is just a temperature sender that sends that information back to the Sunny Island inverters. So you can just keep an eye on your battery packs. These guys weigh 1,900 pounds a piece. I know these are going to be coming off all my trailers, and the only thing I have that can lift that kind of weight is, luckily, I've got a car lift in the garage, so I'll be pulling those off. But if you plan on doing the same, just keep in mind, these guys weigh a ton. Oh, the other thing, I don't think I'm going to be able to get this with my bare hands. Got it. If you were thinking, hey, I can move this just by taking all of these cells out one by one and making this pack nice and light. Well, that would be a good idea, except for these types of connectors are not fun to remove. You essentially need to torch these off. These are lead connectors that they then heat and melt lead around to fill in and make this connection. So it's not something that you can just, you know, unbolt and then remove a cell one at a time. This pack is basically it was born together and it's gonna die together for the most part. I mean, you can change out a dead cell here and there by cutting it and go through that process, but you would not want to disassemble this entire pack and then rebuild it somewhere else. So your best bet is to find a buddy with an excavator or a neighbor with a car lift like me, and have them help you out moving the entire pack to where you want it to go. If you're taking the trailer apart. All right, what else can I tell you? So, battery packs, very simply, they just tie into each other right here. You have a main disconnect right here. This goes under the floor, comes right up and over, and this is what goes into the bottom of your inverters and is your main power. Over on this side, solar in, there's a matching one for the other panel on the other side. We have these two yellow wires with some orange on them. This is your generator auto start. If you touch these wires together, it will initiate the start sequence on the generator. This is a battery equalization cable, so this will allow a higher amperage of charge to go to one bank versus the other. It knows to do that based on the voltage indicators that I just showed you where the little green LEDs are. If one battery is lower than the other, it will use this to differentiate the charge and balance the cells. Below that is the data information for those battery sensors themselves that flow through that cable. And then this big twist lock here is your generator feed. This can just twist and come right out. What else? So this is the 50 volt power feed for the lamps. This is coming straight out of the back of that timer box, and feeds your light towers if you have the light towers on your setup. So as you can see here, I've started the process of disassembling one of these. I was going to wait till the spring, but my curiosity got the best of me, so I got all the panels off of one of these guys. one thing to keep in mind too that I did not realize, those inverters weigh 140 pounds a piece. Those big yellow things. Yeah, that guy weighs 140 pounds. He doesn't look like he weighs that much, but I assure you, it weighs that much. Because I just took one of them out here. The main power comes into the one on the right, and then it's doubled up, and another, this is probably 2 gauge or aught gauge cable goes back and feeds the other inverter. So hopefully that helps you. I realize there's not a lot of information out there on these trailers, so if that can kind of point you in the right direction and save you some frustrations and headaches, hopefully we did that. If you do have any other questions, feel free to throw them down in the comment section. If I know the answer, I'll definitely help you out. Otherwise, as always, everybody, appreciate you watching. Any questions, concerns, comments, or criticisms, throw them down in the comment section below me. Otherwise, everybody, have a great day.